Welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Star Wars The Bad Batch. Don't fool yourself. All you'll ever be to them is a number. Welcome back to Watch Club. My name is CT0831, but you can call me Hugs. And this is our Watch Club for Star Wars The Bad Batch, Episode 16, the finale, titled Kamino Lost. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and Star Wars in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in less than 12 parsecs. Now, before we're all drowned inside what used to be our childhood home, let me introduce you to our experimental crew of ragtag troopers. First up, he's taller than a Jawa. He's smaller than Jabba. And he's just as entertaining as Jar Jar. He's CT1231, also known as Edit.
I gotta say, I'm gonna miss hearing that, once a week,
right?
As we wrap this up. But hopefully, it'll make a return for season 2. Huh?
Oh, we'll have to wait and see. Dropping in from the sky, way up high, we have the dopest, dankest dude on Dagobah, CT1006, but you can call him Joints.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's gonna be really weird not hearing that intro after 4 months of it, basically.
It feels like it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to get Nate to record it, and then every time I walk into a room, just play
Yeah,
it.
it'll be the ringtone or text tone you guys did. And rounding out our small battalion, yet again, we are so glad to have a true friend and very much a war hero joining us. Her name, if you don't know it already, is CT0118, but you can call her Brushstroke.
Well, hello there.
Hello there. Megan,
Wrong
welcome
show?
back.
Wrong show.
Wrong show. I mean, I'm sure we'll do a watch club for that show as well when that comes out. How are you doing? Welcome back.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, you made it through the finale. I was worried that you were gonna, because I saw your post on Instagram. I don't know if I'm ready for this. You were not. You were not ready. Awesome. Well, friends, we all finally made it. 16 episodes. We're here at the end of season 1. I'm stoked to go over this finale with you and really just kind of also hammer home our thoughts on the season overall and just kind of really dig into it. But before we all get rescued by AZ, let's get your high-level thoughts on the finale itself. Brushstroke, let's start with you.
I will say there was a lot of tension, a lot of suspense in this episode. And dare I agree with you, this is feeling like a kid's show.
Oh, no!
I'm not happy that I think that way, but after talking about last week what we were hoping to see in this finale, it just didn't, in my opinion, didn't deliver the way that I wanted it to.
I know, you have to almost wonder if that's our own fault, but
I know!
Sure.
Yeah, but I agree with you from a standpoint of it definitely felt more conventional than we expected. Edit, what did you think?
Oh, Meg said it best. It really did remind us that it was a kid's show in the end. I do agree too, Nate, that maybe we did set expectations pretty high for us, hoping that this show would have a bold take. And like we said, last week's episode definitely did a good job at setting it up. I don't think this episode did a really good job with completing that through and through. There was some good stuff that came out of this, but I don't know. Just again, like Meg said, it was a bit of a reminder that they won't necessarily push the boundaries too much because they are still recognized as a kid's show.
Right. Joints.
Well, again, last week I was saying I was not really looking forward to how they had set up our expectations so high, especially once we talked it through. And remembering that and going into this episode, I kind of brought my expectations back down. So I was happy with the way they did some of it and finished out some of the storylines. But to me, it felt like, again, a lot of a setup for the next season. Like now we know
100%.
Where they're all going to be at the beginning of next season. And that was, I feel like that was the only point of this episode, was to set up the beginning of next season, which is a bit of a letdown.
Sure, because for a finale, that's kind of like that's the bar for entry, right? Like,
Yeah,
set up the next season.
But that's all they did. They didn't try
Right.
to like go wow us in any way with that. It was just
Yeah.
we have this goal, and then that's all they met basically.
I think it's fair to ask and to expect higher stakes, especially after the last 3 episodes that we got. I do think that we need to start setting our expectations more for these finales that someone might not die. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like
guess
every
Sure.
single time we watch a finale, like, oh, so-and-so's going to die. Oh, Mando's going to die. Like, someone's going to die every single time. And so I think we need to kind of really, watch that going forward. But I think, I guess, Justin, like you said, like, the penultimate really did deserve that 5. And it really did a good job setting up this. But yeah, they didn't progress the plot as much as I think we wanted to with it. I think there were some really interesting decisions made with some of the characters, especially in certain scenes, which I will definitely get into a little bit later. But I will say, one of the more visually stunning episodes. I think the animators here pulled no punches with the lightings and the effect.
Oh,
they're like, this is
absolutely.
the last, go at this, at least until next year. So they really, really, worked those visuals. But yeah, some of the character decisions and sort of how they wrap things up. We'll get to it. I am happy with Darcy, to your point, how it tied up. But I don't know. Let's get it. Listen, let's get into the plot. Well, we'll get to it. Let's get into the plot for the final time this season. So the episode begins where the penultimate episode left off, with Admiral Rampart raining down fire on Kamino from the safety of his Star Destroyer. Clone Force 99 and Omega are trapped inside the collapsing structure as the domed cities collapse into the ocean. Omega is the first to wake, separated from the rest of the squad, stuck with the Kaminoan medical droid AZ and a trapped Crosshair. They're wedged underneath some debris as the water level rises. Hunter, Wrecker, and Tech and Echo are trapped just beyond the door near them, trying to force their way inside. But it's Omega's quick thinking and heroic actions that save herself, AZ, and Crosshair. So we kind of called it last week when we mentioned how Omega was going to take a little bit more charge here. She was going to definitely be more heroic, more, so what did you think of this sort of moment of heroism from our little Omega, Brushstroke?
Oh, you know me and Omega here. She's my girl. I love that she took charge. She had this moment of seeing Crosshair, who isn't really her enemy just yet, but she sees him. She immediately has to help him and make sure that he's okay. And she'll do anything to save whoever, which was really amazing. This episode also started off with a really intense feeling with that alarm sound in the Star Destroyer and the picture behind Rampart. I was like, oh, we're getting into it, which is also probably another reason why I was so disappointed by the end of it. But that was incredible. The just dumpster fire that is Kamino on the water was an incredible visual, though. As much as it was just being blown up, it was beautiful to watch. So.
And I think there's, I'm pretty sure this is the scene where, one of the troopers comes onto the ship and tells Rampart, like, everything, all the Kaminoan bases have been destroyed or whatever. And you can sense that sort of hesitation in his voice where he and it's like wow,
he
like,
can't believe what he just did or helped do, basically,
right?
for sure. Like, it's
or what's happening,
he just,
right? Like, he's like comprehending it as he's saying it, right? Like,
you've destroyed his home.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out AZ for being so honest and endearing in this moment. Like, just being like if Omega doesn't get out of there, he'll be left on his own.
He will perish, and I will be alone.
Yes, and I will be alone.
You know what I mean?
That was
like, if that doesn't show how much droids need to be treated better in this galaxy, I don't know what does. And I'm so glad that Omega feels the same way. Her relationship with droids throughout the season has been such a positive one. So I really love that.
He was my highlight from this entire episode. He was fantastic, and seeing Omega really come to full fruition with her being a hero and really taking charge and evaluating the situation and what needs to be done. Like it just, for her in this moment, wraps her character, and we now get to see the next stage of her going into season 2, but it really shows that she is in control. And I think the guys are going to start, the batch are going to start treating her like one of them.
And I hope she gets a new haircut next season. Like, I hope, the wet hair is pretty cool, but maybe she does like an updo or something. I don't know. I think
maybe she shaves half of it.
Oh, shaves
I
sides.
she shaved half of it, and it was just like
dope.
Dope.
That'd
be dope.
Super dope.
Yeah, no. So about the whole Omega thing, I thought it was kind of to be expected. I mean, we see her looking up to Hunter the entire time, and Hunter in the last episode was the one to make the call, grab Crosshair, we're getting out of here. So I feel like, if anything, she was more just following through with his orders. Well, of course, she made the decision in the end, but she realized that the brothers would miss Crosshair. Like they just tried saving him before, so why would they leave him now? Type thing. Yeah.
Right. I also think, though, that we are looking at Crosshair as the villain in this moment, and he is their villain. And to see her, really go out of her way to save it, I think that is that moment to really make her shine, to see that she's using her empathy to then, fuel her ability to actually help. And I think that that's kind of what this whole season's been showing, is that she is very empathetic, and it has gotten her into trouble, as we saw it from, episode 14 into 15. But, here she's really in control. So I think that, it does show that this episode was very much about a hero sort of coming out of her.
And I think back to like one of the first moments with Omega, like honestly, and I wish I could say this about all the characters in the show, Omega has really grown. You look back at that episode where she's literally scared in like she's paralyzed with fear to go near that creature that in one of the first episodes, and then she ends up just like facing her fears in that moment. In this moment, she doesn't think for even a half second. She just does. And I think that was super cool just to see that growth from her and see that come full circle.
Again, I don't feel like it was an empathic thing. Again, she's always seen Crosshair as part of the team, and like the fact that she didn't be like, why don't we use his bunk when they were looking for a room for her? Like all these things, like they're okay with. Like she knows that Crosshair is still a member of the Bad Batch in everybody's mind.
It's her brother
right now. Yeah, it's her brother. So I feel like that was more just she didn't have any hesitation, because she was already going to do that. She was already going to give her life to save Crosshair if that's what it came to. So regardless of the situation, I feel like she was just insert Echo or anyone else into his position, she'd be reacting the same way. I think it's just really cool, like you said, how she just her fears were gone, like non-existent. She's like, I'm doing this or else, basically. So I thought that was really cool.
Yes,
absolutely. And she's like way more resourceful now too, rather than just being scared or letting her fear take over. She's like, no, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna do it. AZ, you do that, and I'm doing this. It's awesome.
Oh, you gotta feel that Crosshair's probably pretty impressed with her, like close up marksmanship, almost managing to blast the debris right beside him through the water. Like that's gotta impress him a bit. I hope, at least.
He certainly doesn't show it if it does.
No, definitely not. All right, let's keep moving on here. With everyone united, the team continues their escape as the rest of Kamino collapses. Ironically, the most secure place for them is back in their old barracks, where, much to Crosshair's disapproval, Omega once again comes to the rescue with a risky plan to escape and lead the group through a long underwater tunnel, which is buckling under the pressure of the ocean right below them. While traversing the tunnel, Crosshair urges them to go back. Wrecker responds in frustration, saying, "All that time, you didn't even try to come back," followed by saying, "We still would have taken you." Tech tells Wrecker to let it go, and that Crosshair can't be changed, letting him know that even though he understands him, he does not agree with them. Omega asks AZ if the tunnels are protected, to which he lets her know that without power, they are not. Then all of a sudden, they're attacked by a massive fish, chomping down on them, causing the entire tunnel to start flooding. After AZ manages to get the power on, the creature is deterred, and the group manages to survive. So, what did you think of that massive fish turtle thing, as well as Wrecker and Tech's moment with Crosshair?
I honestly was just waiting for a bigger fish, because that's the lighting and everything in that one underwater shot is like it's Phantom Menace.
100%.
We are going on the way. We are on the way to Naboo right now, and there's going to be a bigger fish.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just thought the whole sequence though was really cool. I feel like this one more so than her saving Crosshair was her really stepping up to the leadership plate and like not being afraid to suggest something. Where I feel like earlier in the series, she would have held back until like really pushed to make that idea come forth. Whereas this one, she was just like, yeah, that's probably our only way out. Let's try it type thing.
Yeah.
No hesitation there. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I also want to shout out, definitely Phantom Menace vibes. The lighting in this moment with the flashlight like barely illuminating the creature's face, like this was such a standout. And I've went back and like rewatched this moment a few times, and I'm just like, at points in time, and I think Darcy, you've mentioned this in previous episodes, it doesn't even feel like we're watching an animated Star. Like it just looks like Star Wars. It was so cool.
I think these last few episodes, 14, 15, 16, we were talking about the aesthetic of it and how it seems to be sort of, upscaled and using the term cinematic, which sometimes tends to get overused, but it is a way to kind of understand the sort of level of what they're trying to do with it. It does feel far more elevated than some other episodes of the series, and rightfully so, because of what they're, kind of showcasing and dealing with, right? But yeah, that big turtlefish thing was cool. It was quite interesting. I was expecting a bigger fish as well. Like, it's so funny that Darcy thought that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's again the first thing you think of when you see a giant fish in Star Wars is there's a bigger fish.
Oh yeah, there has to be.
We all know
Of
that's
course,
Star Wars 101 basically. No, what I thought was really cool about talking about the lighting and cinematicness, the score they have in these episodes too. Like they're matching these incredible like visuals with the same like symphonic levels of like attention basically. Like it's you can really feel like this is something they want to stand out, and just music, scene, visual, everything really goes together to drive that home. And I thought that's, again, standout in this episode was the score for me.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you, Darcy. One of the big things I wrote down in like capital letters was this incredible score. It set the mood and the tone of every single scene. It was amazing.
100%.
And I also wanted to just, that Wrecker and Tech moment, I think it was nice seeing a little bit more in terms of their response to Crosshair. I think, seeing Wrecker see a softer side again, which we've gotten a little bit throughout the series, but even more so like with Tech, kind of digging a little bit deeper from him than usual. Like he's so clinical, and even in his response, he's very clinical with how he responds. I would have loved to see a little bit more of that sort of break from Tech throughout the series.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was, albeit it was a little brief, it was nice to see in this moment for sure.
Yeah, so you almost have to wonder if he's learning some empathy from being around Omega, because I feel like the Tech from the beginning of the series wouldn't have said that at all. He would just keep it to himself. They've all grown a lot just through exposure to Omega, I feel. Like again, we're not seeing it, but it's definitely intended to be there for sure. Like these little moments are nodding at that growth.
For sure. I think it is that mentality though too. It's like these are 4 grown men and 1 child, and they feel like they are her protector. They are, looking out for her on all levels, being brothers, father figures, whatever, to her as in her development. And as much as, they have an impact on her, she's having an impact on them as well. So I think it was very interesting to see Tech kind of speak up, because he's kind of the character that doesn't really seem to speak up only in a sarcastic manner. And he was pretty sarcastic in the scene, right? Like he was pretty sarcastic, but he was straight to the point, right? Like he was very honest with Crosshair. Yeah.
And I mean, again, like I've got some nitpicks about in terms of the season overall, in terms of how you Jesse, you said we see a little bit of their character growth throughout the season. Thankfully, not the series. We are getting a season 2. But yes, no, I'll get into that a little bit later. I think when we talk about our overall feelings. Are we good to keep moving through the tunnel? Oh,
I just have one more thing.
Please.
I really want to point out the moment where they are running through the tunnels to get to the barracks, and Omega looks out at all the pods.
Oh, yeah.
And she has that moment alone, just sort of looking at them and watching them get destroyed. It's another punch to the gut of her seeing also her home that she's lived at longer than the Bad Batch. Seeing it all go down. Yeah.
And I think it's to all the people that grew up with the prequel trilogy and of course Clone Wars, That's again another moment where it hits us in the feels, much like that last episode with all the quiet, empty rooms. So,
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going through this tunnel here.
Let's do it.
Once safe, the group climb the maintenance shaft back into Nalisay's private lab, where Echo catches Hunter and Crosshair up on what we learned last week, confirming that Omega is technically older than them. After that, they travel a little further to realize that the tunnel leading back to the Marauder has collapsed. So Clone Force 99 is left to argue among the wreckage as their oxygen supply slowly depletes, along with AZ's battery cells. Crosshair remains adamant about joining the Empire, claiming they did what needs to be done in regards to destroying Kamino. He tells Hunter that he made the wrong choice, and in response, Hunter tells him that to the Empire, all he'll ever be is a number. While finding some time away from the others, Crosshair and Omega find a moment to connect. Omega tells him she wanted to believe it was the inhibitor chip that made him the way he is, but she realizes she was wrong. So we got the confirmation that Omega is indeed older than them, but what I really want to kind of focus in on and what I want to talk to all of you about is that moment shared between Crosshair and Omega. Brushstroke, let's start with your thoughts on that.
There are so many moments in this episode specifically where Crosshair is so stubborn and I want to slap him across the face because he doesn't seem to hear anybody saying all of these things. Like when he says the Empire will control the entire galaxy and I'm going to be part of it. Dude, they literally just shot up the place that you're in and they don't care about you.
Right.
I don't, like, that's just like... Tech said it's in his nature. He will always be unyielding. He is very, I guess, straight to the point and zero feeling, zero empathy, nothing at all. So it doesn't make sense to me that he doesn't have any part of his brain except for the moments where he holds his head the same way that Wrecker did.
Right.
But there is no inhibitor chip. So what is that?
Well, I think he's just dealing with sort of the stress of the situation, maybe. But like to your point earlier about like how he is, that it doesn't make sense that he would act that way in terms of like his response to them blowing up Kamino with him in it.
Yeah,
I do think that realistically, he belongs to nobody. You know what I mean? He thinks that, listen, the Empire have already won, so I need my family, my brothers, to be with me on this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just be a complete jerk about it, sure. But at the same time, I think he doesn't think of the Empire as a solution. He thinks of him and his Bad Batch as a solution to a problem that the Empire will have. And that he has that higher calling for them. Not so much that he needs them, but they need him. And I think that's kind of where he's sort of coming from in that response of just blatantly disregarding the fact that they were about to kill him.
Yeah, seriously. And he also switched up the line a little bit this time. He just said soldiers follow orders. He did not.
Right.
He did not say good soldiers this time.
Ooh,
so that was interesting. And
I also
can we expand on the fact that Omega is older than them? They just keep sort of saying it and then move on to the next topic.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting though, because how new are they? You know what I mean? Like, when we were introduced to them in the final season of Clone Wars, is that a fairly new period for them in terms of where we find them at the beginning of Bad Batch? So, like, are they like, fairly recently activated? Do you know what I mean?
In the barracks, there were so many of those scratches, right? That kind of, so many missions. So, like, they had to have been active for quite a while.
Yeah. And again, I did some math because I was wondering about, the age of Omega, roughly. And if we're assuming that she was made at the same time as Boba, which is kind of implied, like they were two of the pure genetic stock, no alteration clones, she'd be about, 13, maybe 14 years old, because 32 BBY is the birth of Boba Fett. So again, if we assume that as Omega's as well, up until 19, I believe, is when 19 BBY is the Siege of Mandalore. So you have 13 years of them growing. So she could be 4 years old, remembering them being alone and then having them around. So they could be easily 9, 10 years old and still be younger than her, quote unquote. So again, they also are, they have doubled aging. So if we assume that they are, 10 years older or 10 years old, they'd be about 20, which is, again, a bit young for their bodies, but would be more believable, I guess, if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, I do want to call out a criticism of this scene, and I think there's a reason why we're focusing collectively as a group on her age and not what happened in that scene, and it's because, unfortunately, I don't think much happened. I think there could have been so much more to this moment, and I think, we see her sit down with him, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, that was my here we go moment. I was like, it's going to get deep, and she just kind of admits to him about how she was wrong, and then just stands up and walks away. And it felt really oddly paced, and it didn't feel like Omega. It felt like Omega would want to talk even more, and that Crosshair would have been the one to kind of abandon that situation. So I don't know. I think we could have benefited from, like, kind of, again, and I know I set myself up for this failure, but I think we could have benefited from seeing her stay with Crosshair throughout the entirety of the episode. I thought it would have been really cool if they couldn't have gotten that door open and they had to find their own separate way around back to the Bad Batch.
That's what was happening. Yeah,
would have been so much better to help really dig into Crosshair's character and his relationship now with Omega.
My one takeaway from that, like the conversation between the two of them, it seems like Omega wasn't like ready to like believe that was the case. Like she still thought like they're going to get him, they're going to get the chip out, and everything's going to be back to normal. And to find out that that's not the case, I think really shook her to her core. Like she thought she understood where he was coming from, and it turns out she didn't. And I feel like that is a really big blow to her, self-conscious, because she's always been very good at picking up on these things, and to completely miss the mark like she did, if like with this, I feel like that would really shake a girl. She is a young girl still, so that would probably. She's still probably trying to deal with that and, again, not know how to talk to the guy anymore.
So I thought of this as the bookend to the first episode where she has the conversation with him, right? Yeah. And it literally, there she is saying, it's not because of you. It's it's because of the inhibitor chip. This is the other end of that conversation, basically her saying, I'm giving up on you. Because you are the way you are. It is not the inhibitor chip, right? It is, and it that is surprising to me, right? Like, but so
it just
I feel
like that's in her character, Justin. Like, I don't know. We just talked about how, from a physical life-saving standpoint, she just makes that decision. She never gives up. She doesn't want to leave anyone behind, and then so for her to just sort of be like, I was wrong about you, and then walk away.
But maybe, that whole conversation, like you'd have to, think that she's aware of seeing these interactions between Crosshair and the other members, and she's seeing they've given up. They've given up on him, right? So, Nate, I think that at the end of it, you could easily say that it's her sign of saying, you are the way you are. I'm not going to fight for you anymore. I'm not going to save you anymore, right? Like I'm not going to do that. So I feel like that's kind of what she's saying in that moment, especially mirroring it to the conversation.
If anything, she's more mature in that moment, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
And if you think about the fact that she literally just saved his life and he still doesn't care.
Yep. And also the fact that, like, as you said, Nate, like her empathy. It's not in her character. Well, maybe that's the point of why we're seeing this, is because it's not in her character and she is giving up, rather than just saying, you know what, I'm not going to give up on you, Crosshair. You're going to be one of us again.
I don't know.
I'm sure like Megan could say it a lot better, but
I think there could have been maybe just a little bit more from that moment. But let's keep on keeping on here. After some debate, the team realized they're they're able to flood the lab and then float to the surface in the tubes, similar to the ones they were likely created in. Guided by AZ, they almost make it to the surface, except for Omega, who gets dragged down by some debris. AZ, using his last amounts of battery, sacrifices himself in that moment to get Omega to safety. Omega, though, isn't having that at all, and she goes after the droid, almost killing herself in the process. Just as Hunter is about to dive down to go after her, it's actually Crosshair, of all people, who fires a winch line from his rifle that is able to drag Omega and AZ to safety. Once safely back at the landing pad, the Bad Batch stare out as they see that all of Kamino is gone. Their home and their birthplace is gone. As they turn to leave, Wrecker asks Crosshair if he's going to join them. Crosshair responds by telling them that this changes nothing. And as Hunter offers him his last chance, he tells him that just because they want different things doesn't mean they have to be enemies. Omega walks towards the Marauder with one last look back at Crosshair, and she says, "You're still their brother, Crosshair. You're my brother, too." And with that, the Bad Batch fly off to their next adventure. Now, there's an additional scene involving a certain Kaminoan cameo, but we'll save that for our prediction for what's next. For now, I want to know, what did we think of the ending? What did we think of Crosshair's decision to save Omega and then not join them afterwards? Justin.
Okay, this is the highlight for me.
Yeah.
in this moment. First off, again, seeing Omega's empathy to say, screw it, I'm going after the droid, right? And swim out of her pod to go get it. Awesome. Really defined her as a hero. Crosshair standing up with that sniper rifle and like setting that moment and then winching down to grab both of them. And I was like, okay, that was sweet. Like that was an amazing scene. Like even that moment, I wasn't expecting it. I was like, oh, right? Like I was like shocked.
Like
right? I was actually
fist pump
shocked.
in the air, like
Yes.
let's go. It was the same feeling I got when we got to see them all work together again in the previous episode.
But the fact that he saved AZ and her, they couldn't let the droid die. After everything that we had seen, after everything we saw with AZ throughout the episode, they couldn't let him die. And that's where it was a kid's show for me. I was like, it would have been amazing if Omega did have to say goodbye to a droid and had such a huge loss, and that she could carry that with her. I don't know. It just reminded me it was a kid's show right in that moment, unfortunately. Like everything leading up to it was so good, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but I'm also wondering too, like if you know, if this is more of a moment for Crosshair, in the sense of like, yes, him saving Omega is one thing, but him also saving AZ, like he still has a heart, and he knows that Omega would have been devastated with the loss of AZ. He's a really quick thinker. So for him to take his aim and if he aimed it right at Omega and grabbed her, that's one thing. He didn't. He purposely grabbed AZ in that moment, and I honestly think it's because he actually does care about Omega more than we think, and more about his brothers, obviously.
First off, I was terrified AZ was going to die. I'm glad he didn't. Again, he's too good, and he was too short for this world.
He is
to
great.
Get any more of him. I mean, also when you think about him, he's like Omega's first friend. Like like the last thing of her home is AZ. So I knew that he was going to get out of there in some way, because again, he is the last tangible piece of her home that she has left, and is her best friend. So I was very glad to see, and was again
even
on
more of a
the
reason
edge of
to
my
kill
seat,
him.
waiting to see. No, she just lost her home. You can't take away her dog too. Basically, if you look at it,
my
that
God.
Drive, man.
We're
It's
okay with Hunter
motivation.
maybe
It's
dying, but
motivation.
not AZ. But never.
Exactly. That was a sacrifice I was not ready to admit or to see, so I'm glad it didn't go through with that. But overall, I feel like, again, just want to comment on the winch thing. If we have seen him use that winch in other series, it's to, attach to the side of armored vehicles or buildings. If you shot that at a child, I'm pretty sure you do serious damage.
That's
So
why
it was
he
shooting
saved
at
the
A-
droid.
All right.
Yeah, that's why he saved the droid,
it.
because
I
it was
knew it.
magnetic and could pull the kid up. That was my thing. I think it was more, he was saving Omega because he saw how much Hunter cared about her. Because Hunter was seconds away from going in there, and we know that Crosshair is afraid of losing his brothers. So if Hunter went down there, he could also get stuck and never come back. Like, I think that was more what he was thinking about, not so much Omega. Mm-hmm. It was more like, I don't want to make my brother angry or lose him because he's going after this kid.
Smart.
Bravo, man. My mind is blown now from that whole scene. It
Yeah.
was like,
Made it better.
I also, just from like his unyielding personality, I do think there's also a part of it that was like what he said, we'll call it even.
Yes.
Because you
that
saved
totally
me,
played a
so
hand too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that
Sure,
totally played a
yeah.
hand for sure.
But also, has there ever been such a sunny, beautiful day on Kamino?
that's what I was wondering.
Well,
Oh.
I mean, when we saw the previous Kamino facility, that was their old facility after they basically destroyed their planet. And we know that Kamino was turned into the raging sea that it was from more of their destroying the planet. So I'm wondering if, as soon as they took out all these cities, the powers, like the planet, whatever was being with, basically, is now all good. I feel like that's what happened there. We saw that, like,
Cool.
without the Kaminoans, the planet's actually a good place.
I like that.
Right.
I like that. It's very much like Earth, like when we all lock ourselves inside our homes and then dolphins start swimming around Italy. Like, it's,
Oh my God.
you know, we've seen it in real life, so I love that as an explanation.
Well, it goes to show, though, it shows that, Kaminoans are they're basically sucking the resource of that planet, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And the lighting and everything was so good. Like, I don't know, like I was noticing on the skin so much more in this episode, the sort of painterly brush strokes. Like it's not clean. It's not clean like fill, like with multiple layers of colors to kind of create shadows. It's like it feels very painterly. Even in their eyes, there's like a texture that's very brushstroke. And I was like, I've never seen that in such a refined, like, of all of the season. I don't know. It just really stood out to me. And especially, I was like, wait, are they still on Kamino? Like, why is it so sunny? It's like the best day ever.
Yeah. It's always sunny in Kamino.
Oh my God.
I was happy. I was happy that he didn't die. Even though I think last week I kind of was like, I hope I think he's gonna die in terms of Crosshair. But, I'm happy because it wasn't what we expected. And ultimately, I think, Justin, to your point where AZ living was an immature sort of kid show move, I think him not going with them was a very mature take on what would happen because that's who he is. And I think maybe if he'd gotten a little bit more time with Omega, like I kind of wanted, maybe he would have gone with them and then that would have made sense for his character. But I think it was, good on them for going this route. And when Omega says, you're my brother too, I did get a little emotional. I didn't cry, for those who were wondering, because I know everyone's wondering. But Megan, did you shed a tear at all in this moment?
No, I was at this very defeated
sap.
point by this. Oh, no, you're definitely not, because I've cried many a time throughout this whole show.
Yeah.
But I expected so much more from this episode in particular because we all gave last episode a 5 because it deserved it, rightly so.
Yeah.
But it set up, like, we were really worried it was going to set up this episode that just was like a little bit lackluster and gave us all this tension and all this suspense throughout the whole thing, just to sort of end with, oh, everyone's kind of fine. I don't know. So yeah, I didn't really get emotional with Crosshair.
Okay.
Yeah, I got emotional. I got emotional with AZ. Like,
With
when
AZ,
he was
same,
drifting, and I was like, oh my God, he's gonna die.
It's like Jack.
It's when he started sort of kicking out his thrusters and you noticed it, and even his eyes were starting to dim.
And I was like, oh God, he's a goner, and Omega's gonna have to deal with that. But like that, I will genuinely say I was getting a little emotional. And then when they both came out of the water, I was like, wow, like they had me there.
So you were stoked about that, but then you ultimately realized, like,
it's still a kid show.
That still kind of sucks.
Yes.
And animation-wise as well, to bring it more to a mature standpoint, the way they animated Omega after she couldn't breathe anymore and she sort of did that little choke and then her eyes started to close. I was like, whoa, that's dark. I know she's going to live, but that's so sad.
Your hair all floating up there. It looks like you can see individual strands. And it's like, when have you ever seen that? Clone Wars?
No.
It's usually just the clumps.
For sure. Well, listen, let's get to our clumps and talk about our overall thoughts. I don't know. I'm trying to find a transition.
That's good.
Your overall thoughts and final score, which for this episode, we'll be rating it on a scale of 1 to 5 experimental clones. Also, if you could include your overall score for this season as well, which we're going to rank on a scale of 1 to 5 Omegas. So let's get to it. Megan, we'll start with you.
Okay. As I've mentioned a bunch of times already, this episode specifically started with so much tension, so much intensity, so much suspense that it felt like it was going to go to this darker, more mature, experienced place. But then everyone was kind of okay. So it didn't end the way I thought it was going to. It also sort of ended quite abruptly for me to have all of this tension.
True.
And then it was like, oh, is that can't be it. It can't be over. And then it was.
That's
so,
a theme.
Yeah, that seems to be. So I'm going to give this episode a 3.5 experimental clones.
Okay. All right.
I did like it, but it didn't end the way I wanted it to. And for the whole season, I really love this show. I really love the style of design and animation. And again, that word cinematic. It's one of the most beautiful animated shows I think I've ever seen. when it comes to the lighting. And like we were just saying, the painterly textural design of these characters in this landscape is so gorgeous in relation to like the Clone Wars series, where the first few seasons I mentioned they were a little bit janky and kind of funny to watch because they're from like 2007 or something, right? But then the final season, yeah. But then that final season was stunning, and this just elevated from that as well, and it rose to the occasion. So for the whole series or season, not series, season,
right?
I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 Omegas. Omegas.
Okay. Omegas. All right, perfect. Let's go over to joints.
So yeah, this show, like I said, I was kind of expecting it to be a bit of a letdown after the big setup that they had last episode. And again, this episode just overall felt like setup for the next season as well. So, I mean, again, I liked how they did some of the crosshair moments, but again, they kind of fell short on a lot of other things. So it's kind of half and half. Did I like it? Did I not like it? I'm very torn. So for that, I'm probably going to go with the same 3.5 out of 5 experimental clones. Because again, the score was amazing. The visuals were great, but the story that they managed to tell felt very rushed and again, very like clipped off. Like you got to a certain point and then it's over. Everyone's out. They're all good. It was kind of a lackluster thing for sure. As for the whole series, I definitely feel like it could have been shorter. I mean, I feel like we had 4 too many filler episodes that did nothing to move forward plot or any like integral character growth. And that, really brings it down for me because I felt like it really messed with the flow of the series. If you were to go back and watch it, there are those very low points where nothing's happening, and especially watching on a week-to-week basis really killed the momentum when you're looking forward to such a grand adventure like in a Star Wars style that you're used to. So overall, I'd have to give it probably a 3.5 out of 5 Omegas, and a lot of it has to do with the pacing because if you wanted to watch a show again, I said that those lulls are really going to be momentum killers, and you could easily do without it. I mean, 12 episodes would have had a great story, but just too long in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Justin.
Yeah, as it's already been said, this episode did not live up to the penultimate episode of last week. Instead, as Megan mentioned, everyone ends up fine, still divided, and a clear setup for season 2, but not much else happens. While this felt like a lackluster final episode, there were some revelations with the confirmation that Omega is in fact older than the Bad Batch, and some great moments with AZ, who I think stole the show from the other characters as being the real hero along with Omega. The climactic end with her swimming out to save AZ and Crosshair ultimately saving them both, while awesome and a pure fist pumping in the air moment, like Nate said, it does indicate that the show is for kids, as they couldn't make the sacrifice to further Omega's growth with the experience of a personal loss. That being said, I will give this episode a bit of a higher score for that fake out and making me a bit emotional towards the end with the loss of AZ. So I'm giving this episode a 3.8 out of 5 experimental clones. As for the season, again, as Darcy mentioned, this could have been more refined and focused with less meaningless filler episodes.
Yeah.
We could have had a 10 episode season rather than 16. And don't get me wrong, filler is great. I love filler. One of my favorite episodes is with Cad Bane and Fennec Shan, and honestly, Bad Batch weren't even involved in it. But there were some episodes that really just didn't do anything purposeful other than reiterating existing points that other episodes did better. I did really enjoy, though, how they connected parts of this show with Clone Wars and Rebels, with characters and moments that we see throughout the season. And as we neared the end, while we thought the stakes were going to be raised, it really didn't turn out to be anything. And I know people will say we set our expectations too high, and realistically the death of Crosshair or Hunter was never going to happen, which is true. But the desire for that is to give this show some weight and purpose beyond being just a kid's show, and take a chance and give these characters some real motives leading into season 2. So with that being said, I'm giving this series a 3.5 out of 5 Omegas.
I completely hear what you're saying, Justin. It took us the entire season, but you finally got both of the rating scales correct on this episode. It's amazing.
Don't make them so hard next time.
It's incredible. All right, so yes, this episode tied up some loose ends. Like you're saying, though, I think it could have really benefited, as I said, from keeping Omega and Crosshair apart from the batch. I just didn't get enough dialogue between them in terms of, like what we got from Crosshair and Hunter was okay, but it was also like more of the same argument without any real new details or implications. AZ definitely had some standout moments in this episode, and you can imagine, like, again, we talk about sort of the themes of beginning and ending. Like, it's funny because he would have been somebody that would have been there at their birth. And then he's almost there, kind of almost at their death, but he's also the one that sort of pushes them to life again, which is really interesting, and I thought that was really well done. I guess we have to again stop thinking so dark with these finales because no one died and everyone was okay. But I don't know. I think it felt very safe, both narratively and with the dialogue. The visuals were some of the best in the season, and that final scene, like you said, Justin, it made up for a lot of this episode, which was a pretty conventional finale. So overall, as a part 2, I'm going to give this episode, a 3.5 experimental clones out of 5. As for the season overall, I think you all said it best. It could have been tighter. Could have had a tighter narrative, or if they still wanted to do this many episodes, give us a few more character-focused episodes. We talk about how a few of the filler episodes help to flesh out these characters, and they do, but in very small amounts, and mostly with Omega and Hunter at the forefront. While you could argue that we did get some good development with Echo in the Clone Wars, so we didn't really need to see that much more of him in this season, getting more from Wrecker, getting more from Echo, I think they're just they really just kind of stay the same for the most part. I think they could have done without some of the moments in terms of, the ones that weren't focused on the Bad Batch. And I think if they had focused a little bit more on the Bad Batch themselves, I think the pacing would have been... we would have been okay with the show being a little bit longer. I think Rebels Season 1 does a really good job of establishing the same amount of characters, giving them all their moments, whereas the Bad Batch just didn't feel individual enough for me. And with a show that is really about individuality, it's just ironic that we didn't get a lot more from those side characters. Well, no, they aren't side characters, the main characters. I think you really need to only watch half this season to get what the show offers in terms of plot, and to really know what in terms of what matters to the Bad Batch themselves, as well as what affects the overall story of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So I know it sounds like I'm being really harsh here, but I will add that the show does an excellent job of getting me to care about Omega. I love how she grows throughout the season, and those episodes involving some of the additional characters like Hera and her backstory, even starting with Caleb Dune, was really cool to see them tie these two series together. Lastly, the show has some really great themes in terms of family, brotherhood, change, free will, and the whole aspect of sort of endings so that new beginnings can occur, I think are really, really well done. And the way they weave together the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy is done with such grace, and through moments like with the music and the visuals like we've been talking about. And yeah, these shows, these Star Wars shows just keep getting more and more better to look at. So I love that. With all that said, though, I am giving this season 3.5 Omegas out of 5. I think it has such potential to become one of the best, if not the best Star Wars show out there. But it really needs to tighten up its direction and give all of its characters more time to shine as individuals and not just a group plus Omega.
Yeah,
I think we all collectively were hoping for something a bit more elevated, much like Clone Wars. The final season of Clone Wars was just so refined and so focused, right?
One could argue it took them how many seasons to get to that place, right? Yeah. So you could argue that. You could also argue, though, that it's the same people making it. So, you have that as well. So, should they know? But I think a lot of this was much like Mandalorian Season 1. I think it was a test bed to see how do fans react? What can we get away with? What should we add more? How are kids taking this series? Do we need more episodes that are like, here's an adventure of just Gronky honking? What do we want to give for a season 2? And that's kind of where I want to go to next with this podcast, because at the end of most Watch Clubs, Clubs, we like to speculate what we think is going to happen next in a segment that we've always called "What's Going to Happen, Batch." So this week's finale ended with an interesting cliffhanger. So let's talk about that. In the closing scene, we see Nala Se arrive at an Imperial facility where she's told that apparently the Empire has big things planned for her and her scientific talents. So, my question for you beautiful batches is, do you have any guesses for what this means and where we'll see everyone in Season 2 of The Bad Batch? Brushstroke.
Well, how many times you guys said there must be some sort of relation with Grogu?
Right? Come on! Right? The
That
patch?
patch?
On the
that
arm?
patch?
The whole uniform. The uniform is the same.
Literally the same uniform as Dr. Pershing in The Mandalorian, which is so cool.
So I was wondering, though, is that the facility on Navarro that they end up in The Mandalorian? Because it looked like where they had the shootout in that episode.
It totally does.
So,
I never even made that
about that.
connection.
No.
well, just it kind of looked like it. I don't know. I might be reaching for that, but like
No, I
haven't
think you're
seen
right.
anything online. I thought that was kind of interesting though, because 100% when you saw the badge on the doctor that introduces herself, like I was like, oh, okay.
Maybe that badge on her, maybe that's a bad badge, right? We all think that we all think that, the person who rescued Grogu was a hero, but it could have totally been the Empire. It could have totally been a villain, or it could have been totally this group of scientists that are maybe a third party, group that the Empire is bringing in to bring back Palpatine. And I think,
So is that your theory now? Is that
because
that
Ahsoka
was a bad guy that went into the temple and grabbed...
Ahsoka says that Grogu doesn't remember his rescue. So why does it have to be a good character? It might not have been. It could be someone completely different. And so I just think it would be really cool, because if the next season is all about cloning,
that's for sure.
Well, sure. And then the next season is all about cloning. It's just so funny that it took an entire season for the Empire to be like, we're moving away from cloning. And then at the end, they're like, yeah, but we're secretly still doing cloning. It's just kind of funny.
That's what I'm wondering, because it could also tie into just, the Emperor's backup plan. Like, it could just be the Empire getting ready for that thing, like we've already talked about in previous episodes. So, yes, it's obviously Grogu's patch, but, like, what if that's just the facility that the Emperor set up for his backup plan? That's what I got from that. More what I wanted to talk about is something that I realized more just when we were talking at the end there, and it's the fact that AZ is going to be with the gang and has seen the gang since the beginning.
Let's go.
So what I just realized, they said all the backup files were erased, yet AZ remembers everything. So what if AZ is the avenue that we learn more about the Bad Batch's past? Because I think that would be an incredible way to make such a jokey character so integral to the story of these clones. I think that would be my ideal way of exploring their back or history, is through the eyes of AZ, because he's so clinical and just always been there. I never thought of it until you mentioned the fact that he saw them at their inception, most likely, and is with them now at the end. So that to me is a door waiting to be blown open, and I hope they do eventually explore that in the next season.
Yeah, I mean, Brushstroke, do you have anything else that you want to add for our final prediction?
I mean, I'm really horrible at predicting things. I could never really tell where anything's going to go. And again, I'm still a fresh face when it comes to Star Wars. So I'm just excited to see these characters again. Hopefully a season 2 is a little more refined. Maybe they will listen to people and take a couple episodes out, make more of a snowball story in the second season, dive deeper into these characters, and give us a little bit more to chew on. That's all I want.
I'm okay with filler. I'm okay with filler if it means it's filler centered around Wrecker, or it's filler centered around Tech and an adventure that he has that really, like, we get to see him like lose it or something like that.
Sure.
Like, I'd love to see him get really mad.
But like I was saying, like, one of the best episodes I think from this season is the Cad Bane and Fennec Shan showdown, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was such a good episode, and they weren't even involved in it, right? Like that to me shows really good filler. It's still taking place, and they're still somehow connected to the Bad Batch, but it didn't have to involve them, right? Like, to me, that was how they should handle filler. And if that's an experiment to say, oh, well, we could do these offshoot stories, sure. I'm imagining they're going to pull data about, what's the audience range, right? That of people that might be watching this show. Do you know what I mean? Because I think Clone Wars was tailored to a very specific audience of an existing fan base. Like, it was purely
that had
the
grown
fans.
up since the original airing of the show. So
who knows what if what we were discussing in regards to like them experimenting with this 16 episode series to see. That's fair to say. So hopefully though, Megan, like you said, we get something more refined in season 2 that's just has more focus and more of that snowball where it's like this is leading to something.
Yeah.
And I'm calling it right now. Omega's going to make a new young friend. Not going to be a love interest, but a new young friend who's a boy, and his name is Pershing. I'm just saying, we are going to get a little Dr. Pershing running around that facility, and I totally can see him having some sort of connection to, cloning and to obviously his experiments with cloning. But I do think, like, to the point of seeing Nala Se earlier in the season and how much she cares about these clones, how much she treats them like they're her kids, because a lot of them at the time when we're seeing her treat them, they are kids.
Yeah.
And so maybe he learns from her, right? Maybe he learns about the aspect of like really treating these experiments as people,
compassion,
because they are with compassion. Yeah.
But yeah. I'm wondering though too if it's more likely we'll see like his father, Pershing's father, someone that's of association, because I think that do
you think the timeline still doesn't work?
I don't think so. I think it's too
I
far
don't know.
out.
No, you could have a young Pershing, because again, at this point we're only around like 19 years before New Hope. So if you look at the time of Mandalorian, which is 7 years after the end of Jedi, you're only looking at about 31 years. So a young Pershing could still be running around, scampering,
he might be
35,
40 in the
36.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
He might look young for his age, Justin.
Yeah, he looks fairly young for his age, though.
Yeah,
so,
I just think
that's possible. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be too overt of a connection. I mean, we understand that character exists. I don't know if anyone wants to know that character's backstory.
I do.
For sure. No,
you're not the majority.
I
want to
know. But see, my thing is though is that like we saw those characters in Navarro at the facility, right? We saw them with the patches that matched Dr. Pershing. So there's a whole secret division within the Empire that's doing this. That's the intrigue for me, at least. If Pershing's in it or not, who knows if his character is going to be more integral. There is a connection that they are trying to connect between what's going on here and what we've seen in The Mandalorian.
I don't know, man. It just seems like such a Filoni thing to do. like I don't know. His name's like Tommy Pershing or something. Like little Tommy, get away from the tube. Anyways, let's get to our wrap up here, Megan. Before we wrap up, is there anything for the last time, the final time? No, you'll be back on the podcast for sure. But is there anything that you would like to plug to let our troopers listening, to let them know where to find you and your fantastic work?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find my artwork on Instagram at meganclara.draws. I am also one of many video dames. We are a female-led podcast in regards to film, television, and games. We are connected with It's Your Girl Alyssa on Twitch, where we record our live podcast, so you can watch us record while we're talking about pretty much anything and everything. It seems to all be Marvel as of late. But yeah, those are the places you can find me.
Yeah, speaking of Marvel, I loved your Peggy, I should say Captain Carter illustration.
Oh, thank you.
It was fantastic. I love how every time I liked it, a little heart came out of her lips. It was very.
And I didn't plan that. I mean, I did plan that.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah, of course. If any of our listeners are listening and want to see Megan's geeky and overall beautiful illustrations, they can do so using the links. Make sure to check out Video Dames and the podcast to hear more from the rest of Megan and her crew. All right, well, that's it for the 16th and final episode of our Watch Club for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 1. We hope you... Oh no. Oh my gosh! It worked! It worked! Yes! Omega, hang on, Omega, is that you?
Hi there.
Oh, how Omega? It's so nice to hear from you. I was so worried about you. How are you doing after everything that just happened?
Thank you again for having me. I'm so happy to be here. But I was terrified. I don't think I've ever been so scared for my own life. But not only mine, Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Echo.
Yeah.
AZ was a huge help, though. I'm so happy he's with us now.
Oh my gosh, we couldn't stop talking about AZ. We love him. We're so glad that he survived. Omega, did you hear from Crosshair at all? Have you heard from Crosshair? Is he doing okay?
You know, Crosshair thinks very differently than we do.
Yeah.
But I do hope to see him again.
Yeah, I mean he's your family after all, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, sorry. I've got to go. I beat Wrecker in a game of Dejarik, and he promised me a whole Captono of Mental mix.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well enjoy.
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. What? All right. Oh my gosh. Okay, bye. Wow. And
that's
she's
so
gone.
cool.
That's crazy. Omega. Oh, that was so incredible hearing from her again.
What a way to end the show.
That was absolutely. I think it's a great. Yeah, I'm happy we heard from her. I definitely got her chain code now, so hopefully we'll hear from her in the future at some point. All right. Well, again, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Watch Club. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, listen, you don't have to rescue your brother from drowning inside your old house, only to still have him be upset with you, but ultimately save your life after you try to save your friend who's a doctor. Instead, Justin, can you let the big boisterous batches know where they can reach us by holo message?
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
That was another big problem I had with the show, is they used the announcer for the first episode.
First episode. We got Tom Kane once and not again. I wanted every episode Tom Kane.
Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering the latest content released on Disney Plus, out now, including our first episode for our now next Watch Club for Marvel's What If. So what if you tuned into that? Our second episode is out very soon. And listen, while it's not Disney, you might also enjoy our review for James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, where we share our spoiler-free and spoiler-filled thoughts. So please go give those a listen. Leave us a 5-star review if you don't mind. Justin, Darcy, Megan, or should I say Edit, Joints, and Brushstroke. Thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say,
Good soldiers, follow orders.